Hello everybody and welcome to a live stream for YouTube. What we're going to be doing today is rigging this creature. This creature we finished sculpting in the late hours of the night. It's some kind of crab turtle monster thing. I don't know what it is. But what we're going to be doing is rigging it. So you might be asking, what is rigging? Rigging is the process of giving bones to your geometry. And when you give it bones, like us, like when you give yourself a skeleton, that gives you the ability to rotate and change the position of your body. And that's what we want to do here. I want to rig my character so that we can move the legs. I want to rig the claws so that they can open and close maybe. And I might want to rig this eyeball so that it can move around. So all of that being said, let's see if the live stream is working. Oh, yay, it's working this time. Thank you. And change the position. Cool, and the audio is working. All right, yay, we're ready to stream. So you should join me over onto... Oh, thank you, Pug, for joining me on the Instagram. Oh, hello, Zayo Survival. Welcome, and thank you for being first to my live stream. That really means a lot to me. Ernesto, welcome to the live stream on YouTube. And Pug, thank you for being here. You said the audio sounds so clear. Yay, that's awesome. Super clear audio where you can hear every single detail in my voice. And let's get right into it. So this character, we modeled it in Cinema 4D. No, I lied. We modeled it in ZBrush Core Mini last night. And if you want to see the full stream, that is up and it is available. You can check it out. It's 3 hours long. So skip around. You don't have to watch all of it. But if you want to know every step, it's there. So now the next phase is we've exported our textures out. And I want to rig this character. So let's leave Substance Painter, which we're currently in here. Let's leave Substance Painter and start rigging our model so that it can come to life. So here we are. We're inside of Cinema 4D. And here is the model without textures. Pretty boring. So what we want to do is we want to first apply the textures very quickly. So I'm going to jump into that material here and give it a color. Go to my textures, and we're going to load in the color of our character. It's like a lava monster. So I'm going to hit open and hit no. Great. So we got our textures in there. Then we go into our reflection channel. I'll add a texture in here as well. So we'll load up an image. Grab our roughness map as our reflections. Great. Cool. Next, we're going to add a bump map or a normal map. That's going to give it some bumpiness. We'll grab our normal map. Great. Easy. Done. Hit no on there. So now it's got some texture. What else do we need to add? We got color. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, diffusion. Or in Cinema 4D, they call it luminance. So let me add a luminance channel. This is where it's going to glow. Our character model, we want it to glow in certain areas. There we go. So now it's going to actually glow the light. And then we'll go to our viewport and let's display it at no scaling. So we get the full quality here inside of Cinema 4D. How nice is that? So you get your full textures in there now. And now let's start rigging our character, bringing this thing to life. We want this to move around. 2 goals for this. I want this to work for augmented reality so that I can make it a Snapchat or an Instagram filter, or to make an experience out of it with Adobe Aero, or if I want to bring it into Reality Composer, or if I want to bring it into Unity, or if I want to bring it into Unreal Engine. So I want a workable rig. And I also want to bring this as a visual effects shot, both of which are going to require a rig. So let's just save our project real quick. And we're going to call this one rigging. It's very rare that I rig stuff that's non-human because it's harder. And I always make a lot of mistakes. And it's important for you to see the mistakes so that, you know what to be on the lookout for. So let me just pop out our comments box here so I can see our comments during the live stream. And I'm going to attach Cinema 4D over here on the other side. Great, so now I can see the comments. I see this. We got some folks. If you have any questions on the live stream about what we're doing, you should just ask. It's a safe place for nerdy questions. It's also a safe place for newbie questions if this is totally new territory. All right, rigging. Let's go into it. So the first thing I like to do is we go to our layout and we change it to rigging. All that does is it just changes some of the menus here to make it friendlier for a rigging process. Next, we're going to go to our views here, and I'm going to switch to a side or a front view. I don't know which one's best yet. Actually, let's keep it in. Actually, no. Let's go into a side view. Looks like that's the easiest way for me to rig this character. And the arms and legs are really just 3 legs. We have 3 different bendable joints. So what we're going to do is, with our geometry selected here, I'm going to go into the character tag and go into add character. This is a tool that Cinema 4D that allows us to try to create a rig really accessibly. So you have different templates for different kinds of bodies. We have advanced biped, that's like an advanced human. We have bird, we have face rig, we have a fish, we have an insect, we have reptiles and wings. So I think this rig is probably more aligned with an insect, so I'm going to choose insect. First we need to do is label our thorax. So I want a thorax, great, and then don't worry about the placement of the rig yet. We will be placing it later. We just need to add all of the components that we want to bring. Hey, well, I'm here to teach you the ways. If you have any questions, we're here. So thank you, Zayo Survival. All right, so we've added a thorax. Next, we're going to add 3 legs. So I'm going to hold shift and, I'm going to hold control and click on leg. And that adds both a left leg and a right leg. Then I'm going to go back to my thorax and add another set of legs. So we're going to hold control and click on the leg again. So it's added 2 sets of legs. So leg, left leg, right leg, another left leg, another right leg, and that will be for these back ones. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to click on that thorax and add an abdomen. Cool. So now we have an abdomen. Oh, actually, we probably should have added the abdomen first. So let me backpedal. Let me back. Okay, so we got our thorax of our character. I'm forgetting what a thorax is of a creature, so let me go on to Google Images real quick and double check that I know what a thorax looks like. So let me go to thorax insect here. What is the thorax? Let me see a labeled image here. So the thorax, okay, so you got the head of a creature, the thorax is the middle region, and the abdomen is the butt. Okay, so all I really want is the thorax and a head. We don't really want an abdomen. So let's go back to our crab creature. We have our thorax from our character. Let's grab our thorax and let's make a head for the character. There we go. Great, let's go back to our thorax and we'll attach, holding control, a left leg and a right leg. And then we're going to go back to the thorax and I guess let's add an abdomen. So let me add an abdomen, and then on the abdomen we're going to also add, weird, that's not an option. So we got thorax, abdomen, thorax. I'm going to say that a lot. And then we're going to grab another left leg and right leg. Great. And then let's go back to our thorax and we're going to do a claw, which is dope that they already have that as an option. So we'll do 2 claws. All right. So take a look at what we just made. So this is using one of the auto rigging tools. Well, it's not really automatic. This is a manual rig. But now you see how we have all the right bone structures that will be needed to create the movement. So all the blue controls are the left side of the character. And then all of the red controls are the right side of our character. And what we want to do now, I'm trying to get to your live on YouTube says Ara Cool Art. Oh yeah, well it's up on YouTube. If you go to that link at the bottom here, youtube.com/DonAllen3, it should, it should work. All right, so we got all the right components to start rigging our character, and now we need to start placing these. I'm going to go back to my abdomen here, and I'm going to remove the abdomen. I don't think I need it. So we got 2 claws, we have the head, and we have 2 back legs. So the next phase that we do is we grab our character tag and we're done building out our rig. We now go to the adjust tab. And this is really cool. It gives you these little balls and you just need to place these balls very accurately inside of your model to align it nicely. So with it set up, I'm going to go back to our side view of our character here of this crab creature. And you want to start from broad to specific. So I'm going to start off with maybe our first control, which was our thorax. And I'm going to grab our thorax and move it to the center, as much as I can, to the center of the character. Then I'm going to go to the head of the character and move that here. And then go to the head tip and put that right to the center of the eye there so that we'll get a nice little head motion that can move our character. Next I'm going to go to our left leg, our back left leg, and place that there. I'm going to go, actually we should hold, we should turn on symmetry so it moves both rigs. I don't know how to do that. I don't know what's going on there. I can't really tell which leg I'm grabbing. What is this? Left leg perennial. There we go. So let's grab that, put those there. And let's grab that one as well. Put these back here. Then we're going to rotate our leg backwards. I'm going to take this one here and rotate that backwards. And what we're doing quite literally is rigging our model based off of where the bone should go. So if we look back at our perspective view, you can see that we're starting to get it closely. Oh, actually, I think I made some mistakes. Let me back it up. So what I want to move first is this thing, our left leg contact, we want to maybe move that in the front perspective. So let me go to a front projection of our character. Oh, sorry, that's a top projection. Super weird. Go to a front projection of our character. And let's grab our left leg contact and, oh, that's a rotator. Let's bring position or translation. There we go. All right, so I'm going to grab this left leg thing and move these down here, I think. And I'm going to grab this leg here and move this down over here. Let me double check that we're on the right dimension. So let's switch it to our perspective view. Oh, we need to separate this in Z space. So I'm going to set these as the back legs. Yeah. And it's set to mirror things right now, which is great. So if you want to save yourself a lot of headaches when you rig, model your characters with perfect symmetry. Then you only have to rig half the character, and it's going to smoothly apply it to the rest of the character. So very much when I'm rigging, I'm going between a front projection and a side projection, and then I try to verify things in a perspective. So let's move our claw arm to like right about here. Great, let's switch it back to a side view, move our claw forward. Great. Then let's go back to our perspective view, make sure our claw is kind of aligned. So I'm going to get R to bring up our rotator, and we're going to rotate the arm anchor points around. Then we're going to grab this part and grab our position modifier, and I just want to move this around until it's like aligned, you know, with the actual claws of our creature. So I'm just going to rotate that there. Looking pretty good. Let's rotate the arm forward. Great. And then looks like the twist is correct of our claw. I'm going to leave that alone. Let's bring up our translations again. I'm going to translate that back up a little bit because I want the arm, this is like where the elbow is going to bend from. So it's a good pro tip here is you want to work from broad to specific when you rig. So it's tempting to want to work on like the fingertips, you know, and like get everything all squared away at the tips, but you really want to start off from their anchor points. So I'm going to unfortunately have to I'm going to have to move a bunch of rigs around because I didn't get the armpit aligned properly. So let's push this into the armpit. There we go. So that's like a pretty good space for the model to bend from with that blue dot. Then this is going to be our elbow of our creature. So I'm going to push the elbow back into that spot there. And maybe just move it around in Z space. We want that elbow to be pretty much centered along all axes. Axi? Is axis plural? All right, we're going to move this here. And then we're going to grab our claw root and move our claw a little bit here so that it bends from that center point a bit more. Awesome, awesome. Actually, I'm going to push it a little bit further back. Great. We're going to grab this as like our claw thumb. I'm going to move that down lower, kind of pushing it away from the rest of the model. Awesome, awesome. And then we're going to move this point, which is like our pivot point for our claw. Just tilt that up there. And then we got this nice bendy spot. We're just going to put that there. Oops, we're in Z space. So you have to keep toggling in perspective view while you're rigging so that you make sure that your rig is, you know, nicely aligned with all the 3D metrics of your character. If you have any questions about what we're doing, just let me know. You know, that's why we're here. All right, so I'm just kind of moving all these positions around. I saw there's a tutorial. I think if you hold 7, you can move a point without moving its parent. So that way you can it's like really nice. All right, so I'm just kind of trying my best here to get these rigs to be nicely aligned with my claw. And we want it to be nicely aligned with this claw as well. So I'm going to move this anchor point up a bit. Oops, wrong dimension. Let's move it along the y-axis here. And then we want to make sure that this is definitely at the tip of our lower claw. So we want it to be at the tip of our lower claw from all angles. That's looking pretty good. So that claw looks like those anchor points are in the right spot. That's going to be fun to rig. Or we are rigging. What am I talking about? Great. Let's save our work because you never know when Cinema 4D is just going to think it's hilarious to crash on you. It happens a lot. So save your work a lot when you're rigging because it's a different kind of pain when your model, when Cinema 4D crashes when you're rigging, it's very frustrating. Like I laugh a lot when it crashes when I'm painting because that's usually not too hard for me to redo. But redoing rigging is not something that I like to do a lot. So just be careful. All right, let's work on this middle leg here. So this first section is where it's going to bend from the most, like that first anchor point from the thorax of the character leg to the first anchor point of the leg. Then we're going to take this point, and this is almost like a spider leg, I'm going to go to a front view if I can over here and try to align this with the first bending spot of that leg. Let's go back to our perspective view, and we're just trying to rig our crab character. So, I mean, honestly, it would have been wiser if I started off by looking at footage of how crabs move, but I have an idea in my head. But in general, when you're rigging stuff, you want to base a lot of rigging off of reality. Even when you do a cartoon rig, you know, even if you're going for a stylized character, you still want to base a lot of rigging off of physics, like how and anatomy, like stuff that our brains have a lot of understanding of what the motion should look like. So yeah, that's another pro tip, is maybe look at real life, study real life when you're trying to rig, you know, characters like the ones I'm doing here. All right, so it's such a weird like joints in the legs here, but it's gonna work, I think. You know, another pro tip for when you're sculpting your characters, when you have rigging in mind, is separate all the limbs quite far from each other. By separating your limbs like far away, you're going to allow the automatic weight painting to not get miscalculations. Jitesh says Don is hitting the right spot. What do you mean, the right spot on the rig? All right, let's again save our rig. We're halfway through now. We got the claw points labeled in blue. We've got our middle leg again labeled in blue. Now let's work on that back hind leg. So I'm going to go to our anchor point here and try to get this, you know, in the right spot in 3D space. It's a little weird to rig things, to be honest, because it's like it's just a different way of thinking about your model. You know, we're not looking for style right now. We're looking for functionality. So you have to like be pretty strategic with where you want to place the bones of your character, because it's going to define the way that this character moves. And it's hard to go back on a rig. You know, like once you have something rigged, it's very difficult, at least for me. It's always difficult to unrig, you know. So let me just move these points into place here. And you want to keep rotating your view, because it might look like you're rigging it properly from one angle, and then you rotate it just a few degrees and you see that you're totally off, and you're like, ah, no. So you want to just make a little adjustments and then rotate. Make a little adjustment and then rotate, and repeat that process many, many times. All right, let's move this to the very bottom of the feet here. See, like example, like right there, I didn't realize that it wasn't actually in the model. So I have to keep rotating it to make sure that it's actually inside of the column of our model. Otherwise, oops, don't move your model though. You want to just move the rig at this point. Okay, cool. So it looks like all three legs have a pretty solid bounding box for where the rig is going to go, where the bones are going to go. Let's now work a little bit on the head of the character. So I'm going to go to the head of the character and make sure that everything's lined. We got the nice yellow dot here on the middle of the eyeball, so that's probably going to bend pretty nicely. But the back of this eyeball is not going to bend nicely. So I'm going to hold 7 and move that forward. So I want this to be kind of like the back of the eye. And then let's move this back in 3D space so that this is at the center of our iris, so that we can hopefully use a bone to control the movement of the eye. We might run into some problems with the eye, and if that happens, I might not animate the eye. I might just animate a blink, like a layer on top of it, if I'm feeling lazy. I don't want to be lazy. I would rather have the flexibility to rig that. Okay, cool. So once you have all your bones placed, you want to keep saving your work. So I'm going to click Save Project, because, you know, if it crashes right now, that would be awful. So let's go to the next phase. We go back to our character tag. We've first built our rig. We've now adjusted our anchor points. And now we click on Bind. And the newest version of Cinema 4D automatically guesses what object you want to bind to based off of proximity. And so if we did this correctly, we now have bones inside of the character model that should allow the character to move. So let's go to the animation tab and test it out. So I'm going to try maybe this the root control real quick and just see if that works. Yay, look at that. It's kind of working. The thorax is a little screwed up. It looks like it's I like that the legs are bending like a crab. I'm not thrilled with how it's bending our shell though, so we might need to redo the weights a little bit. But I just want to see which controls we have. So that's our root. Let me try our master control rig. So that's the whole model. Let's try our left foot. All right, that's actually looking pretty good to me. a little bit. There's some problems for sure, but yeah, there's some blaring problems, but here's the problem. So this rainbow view can really scare people away. So I want to maybe not scare you away, and I want to explain what this rainbow view is. But before I do, there's a comment from Jitesh in YouTube. Says, Don, isn't the number of joints in the rig more than actual points of the legs? Like, too many points can complicate the animation. Yes, you're 100% right. I probably put way too many joints in there. We could probably get away with like 3 joints per each leg. So yeah, you're totally right. I don't want to break their rig though, so I do want to maybe go with it for now. And if it's a totally wrong approach to use their template for insect rigs, then I will have to go ahead and re-rig this. But for now, I think it's going to work because I don't plan on doing a lot of animation with this character. I mostly want to animate the body so that the body kind of is able to rotate, and then the legs, having them all set into an inverse kinematic rig, will allow them to stay locked off, but the legs will twist and rotate. Okay, so what we're seeing here in this rainbow color is called the weight paint. And the weights show you which bones are influencing what geometry. So the color corresponds to the bone. So right now, it thinks that this blue bone, it thinks that I want to move all of the shell when I want to move the leg, when in actuality, I just want to move the leg without moving all of the shell. So to fix that, you go into your weight painting tool, you grab your character model, go to your weight paints, and what we need to do is paint a better control. So with your model selected, what I do is go to my weight painter and then choose my joints and go into the different joints that need weights applied to them, or in other words, influence. And I don't know why I can't see my paint. Let's see, where's the paint? We should be able to see the paint right now. The weight paint. I know we can see our texture, but I want to see the weight paint of our crab character. So let me see, where do I do that? That's the skin, that's the model, that's character. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank in my head right now of how to adjust the weight paint. Let me brainstorm for a second. Thinking. Where's the setting? I just had it on screen a moment ago. I'm just blanking out where it went. Got it. You have to select your geometry if you want to paint the weights. And you see over here, there's all these colors. These are the joints and how much influence each one has. So if I go to my joint tool like this and click on a joint now, I can see which joint is influencing what bone on my rig, which is a super helpful metric. So here's the whole left claw. And right off the bat, I see the main problem. My left claw thinks it should animate the shell, but I don't want it to do that. So with our paintbrush, we just hold Alt and we erase the areas that we don't want it to influence. So I don't want my claw to influence any movement on the face, so I have to unpaint it. I don't want my claw to influence any of the shell, so we just got to unpaint it. So I'm just going in here and manually painting the weights of where I want the claw to influence. Now the opacity of your brush influences the strength of the brush. But again, I don't want my claw movement to affect all of this, skin over here. So that's good. Next, we're going to go to our yellow layer and see which areas it thinks it's trying to paint. Just making sure that the claw is in a happy spot. So that claw is looking pretty good. I don't know what this yellow is here or how to unpaint it. It's weird that I can't touch that part of the paint. We have our paint projection set to absolute, so it should be dominating over here. Oh, let me turn off auto normalize. There we go. So now we can erase stuff very intensely. So just check this out. Just by unpainting all of the shell, now if we try to move the claw rig that we placed here, it should only move the claw and some of the skin around the under part of the shell. Because I don't want the shell to move around when the character walks around, because the shell is like a hard surface. So to test this, we go to our joint tool and grab our claw, and we just try to move the claw around and see if it's happy. Oops, where is it? Wait, where's my claw? Left claw. There we go. See how that's much better? Now our claw moves, but it doesn't influence the movement of the shell. this is in my opinion, a much better spot to be in, because now we have all that flexibility to move the claw of our character, and we don't have to worry about it moving our shell. Now what you're probably noticing though is take a look at this armpit of our creature. If I move my pose too much, see how it's a very, very sharp fall off, and it's actually an unnatural way for something to move. So that has to do with the opacity of my weight paint. So if you have a very sharp opacity where it just goes from full 100% value to no value, you're going to get this really ugly fall off, and it's going to be very bad for organic shapes. If this was a robot, it would be great. You would want really hard bends between areas. But since this is this is a very fleshy part of the model, this is like the armpit of our character, we want there to be a nice fall off inside there. We don't want this really sharp fall off. So how do we fix that? Well, what we do is you have to grab your geometry and find out your weight paints. So I need to grab the armpit of our claw, and you can see how our claw has a very sharp transition. It's 100% value to no value. Well, that means it's going to be a really a very ugly blend between those two parts of the rig. So to smooth it out, we literally use our paintbrush and just paint some opacity. So I go into my my weight paints here, and I'm going to change my mode to smooth. And now if we paint in here with the smooth turned on, oops, sorry, I'm going to try to reduce the brush diameter here. I get mixed up in my painting tools because I use substance a lot more nowadays. So let me reduce the radius manually here. So I have smoothing turned on, and take a look what it's doing. See how as I'm painting now, it's trying to smooth out the transition between those two colors. If we turn up the strength of our smoothness, it's going to make it really smooth. And we're just kind of blending it in so that we're not getting a hard transition. This is a smooth transition. We're smoothing out the transition between the paints. Let me increase that strength even more. I'm going to make it really smooth, really gradual, so that we get a nice smooth fall off from the values here. And let's also do it underneath over here on the shell. Again, we should be saving very frequently, because I've noticed I crash the most, or Cinema 4D crashes the most when I'm rigging a complicated character. Because I don't know, it's just like, it's a good rigging tool. It's just it's intensive. It's a big calculation to think about. So there we go. So we just smoothed out that transition so that the claw starts to gradually influence the geometry less and less as it exits the distance away from the model. I'm also seeing in here that there's some random areas on the face that got green paint. So I'm going to turn this back on to absolute, and then I'm going to hold Alt or Control to absolutely remove some of the paint here on the face. I don't want any paint in there. We'll turn this to mark all points, not even the ones that are visible. So there's a lot of hidden geometry in here that I think was getting accidentally painted. So I'm just making sure it's all being erased. All right, so if all of that worked correctly, we should now be able to grab our left claw control, and let's move it. Oops. Let me grab it again. Left claw control. Let's move it around. You see how that's a much better bend now? See how no longer are we getting this really bad bend in the fleshy parts of the crab rig. We now get this nice organic bending because it's a smooth transition of the weight influence. And you can just kind of keep dialing those in. You want to, in general, you want hard bends in the areas that need to be hard surfaces, and then you want soft bends in the areas like the joints that are organic. And unfortunately, it's a manual process. You got to do this to every part of your rig. So that's part of the reason why you don't see me rigging very often. It's time consuming. But since I made this character with the intention of rigging it, I've made it so that it's not an unpleasant experience to rig our model. So with that said, let's jump into the next part. So we're going to grab our geometry again, and that was all for the left claw. Let's do the same to the right claw. So look at that. Now that you understand how weight painting works, I hope you can see this and understand why is this a problematic auto rig. It thinks that the claw movement should move this part of the shell. It thinks it should move all of the skin, and it has such an extreme fall off. So you already know what to do. We're going to grab our weight paint tool. We're going to set it to we're going to go to weight paint. We'll set it to absolute strength, and we'll also turn it on so it's painting everything, even the ones that are invisible. And now we're going to hold Control and subtract the areas out that we don't want the claw to move at all. So I'm just subtracting all of it around the areas here that it shouldn't move. But we do want to move some of the skin underneath the shell, so I'm going to leave some of that in there. Great, so now we got our nice absolute cutout. We know that it's absolutely not going to influence those areas. But again, remember how the opacity matters here. So if you have a bright opacity and just go straight into a hard value to the next hard value, you're going to have a very sharp bend if you move your rig. And I want to smooth it out. So I go to my mode and I set it to smooth. And now we just kind of paint in here and smooth out the transition between it. And you get faster with time, as with everything. That's common, right? If you do this a lot, you're going to get faster. It's going to get less and less scary each time. And then you can be more and more ambitious with what you want to rig and what you want to model. I'm currently working on a client that has a very, very complicated rig. It's a facial rig, and it's something I struggle with. So I've been kind of slow to the project because I'm struggling to rig the face. So it just helps me to just kind of practice rigging other characters so that I feel a little bit more comfortable rigging the model for the client. So again, what I'm doing is I'm smoothing out that transition now because this is a fleshy part of the model. Underneath the armpit of this character should be like flesh. So now it's got a nice smooth transition, so it goes from a strong luminance value and it gradually fades off the influence. So if we did this correctly, let's click on our selection tool and grab the right arm controller and see if it bends. Ah, yeah, it's much better. You see how that bend is just nice and organic. It's got a nice bend here. I'm also noticing, though, that it's bending parts of the face. I must be accidentally bending parts of the face for some reason. So we'll need to turn that off. So let's go back to our geometry. Let's grab our right claw. And I'm going to go back to our weight paint and make sure that we set this to absolute. Where is it? Absolute. Where is absolute? And then I'm going to hold control to make sure it's not painting anything in the face here. Because I think for whatever reason it was accidentally applying it to parts of the face, and I don't want that. Cool, and let's just make sure it's absolutely not painting anything over here on the other parts of the body. Okay, let's go back to our right claw rig, grab our selector, and see if it's moving it nicely. There you go, that's much better. Oh, there's a little weird part of the shell that's being moved, and I can't even see it in the rig, so that happens too. Sometimes you think the weight is like nicely spread out. Yeah, it's trial and error. There are algorithms that can do what I'm doing, but so far there's not a good algorithm for super custom rigs. Oh wow, we got a bunch of questions on YouTube. Let me double check. Jitesh Singh says, Don, the left claw is affecting the face near the mouth. Moving it back and forth, you can see parts of the teeth moving somehow. Ah, yes. Oh, no worries, Pug. Oh wow, first time in the YouTube live. Welcome, Dawood, on to YouTube. Yeah, it's a new potential home for the live content. Right now, for those of you that are joining the stream, we're doing this process called weight painting, and it's where you define which parts of your animated character are going to be influenced by the bones. The brightness of the color is influence. The brighter the color, it's the stronger the influence, and then the less color is less influence. And so the left claw, I wanted to only move this part of my rig. I only want the left claw to move this arm, but I want it to generally move a little bit of the fleshy parts underneath the arm of our character. And we tested by going back to our rig, our right claw, and going back to our move tool and seeing if it bends like nicely. That looks pretty good to me. I'm actually happy with that. So we got our left claw rigged nicely. Let's go to our right claw over there. That one's looking pretty good. Great. All right, let's save our work because, Cinema 4D, it's it crashes when you start doing your best work because the best stuff is, in my opinion, gets really complicated, and then that's when it likes to crash. I'm moving a blue screen behind me. Sorry about that. Oh, shoot, your keyboard's broken? Oh, no, it's not. I have it split on purpose. I just got this dynamic keyboard here. It splits it, and it's actually bended. It's bent. It's folded so that it's more comfortable for me to type onto here, more comfortable to game, more comfortable to spend thousands of hours behind my computer screen. So my keyboard is not broken. It's split on purpose. Okay, cool. So, oops, didn't mean to draw that there. Okay, so there we go. Let's double check our right claw and our left claw, make sure that it's moving organically compared to the rest. Also, this grid's bothering me. So I'm going to go to my filter and just turn off our work grid. And I'm going to go to filter, turn off our work plane. There we go. I just want to get rid of that because it was just bugging me. All right, so we can move our arm now. That one's looking good. I'm happy with that. Let's see if the other parts of our claw also work, though. Like, does it open and close? Does it clamp? I don't know, where are the controls for that part of the character. I don't see it yet. Animate. We'll leave it alone for now. Okay. Cool. Well, I'm happy that we can at least rotate and we can move our claws around and we get a nice organic motion, which is great. Cool. Let's move into the first set of back legs. So I'm going to go to the back legs here and let's just test it out, see how the movement is. So right off the bat, I like the movement of the lower leg, but you see a big problem. See how the shell is also moving when I try to move the leg? That's a problem, and that has to do with weight painting. We don't want the shell to move when I move the leg. So as you now know from seeing how we rigged the two claws, we're going to use a similar principle. We need to tell the leg to not influence the back of the shell there. So we first grab our geometry, and we can see our weight paints. And then I'm going to go down. Let's collapse our claw. We don't need to see those anymore. Now we're going to go to our legs. So let me find which leg we're looking at. That's it. Not that one. Okay, so this is our back right leg. And you can see how, you can see how right off the bat the leg is moving the back of our shell, and we don't want that. So, what we got to do is grab our weight paint tool and keep it on absolute. And I have it set to mark all polygons, not just the ones that are visible. And then if you hold control, we can subtract the areas that it should not move at all. So I'm just turning off all the areas that are in the shell there. Actually, I went too far. I also like to display my lines at this point so that I can really see my geometry, which polygons I want it to move and not move. I also highly recommend you do this when you're doing weight painting. You want to see which polygons you're painting on. Otherwise, you might make a bad call and get some unpleasant movements in your rig when you're animating. So there we go. So that looks like a much better leg. Like we want the left leg to move the left leg. That's it. Great. So we got that. But now we have this really sharp fall off here, and that's going to make some unpleasant curvatures. So I'm going to set the mode to smooth, and then this kind of just smooths out the paint. As you can see, it's kind of making a nice gradual transition in our geometry, and we want that. We only want gradual transitions like this in our weights if you want to have slight influence. But I don't want it to really bend the shell, so I'm not going to go too much higher than that, but I do want to bend some of the lower body here when the leg moves. And actually, I might even expand it out a little bit further over here. Cool. All right, let's test it out. Let's grab the back left leg, set it to rig. I forgot which is. Oh, that's this leg. Let's see if it works. That's much better. You see how now the leg is only moving the parts that we want to move? And this is going to be so much funner, so much more pleasant to animate than having to counter-animate the shell problems. Great, let's move to the next leg. This is the back left leg. Let's take a look at the weights. Look at that. So the back left leg, where is it? That's not it. That's not it. That's it. See how, again, we have the same problem. It thinks that we want to move the top of the shell. We don't want to move the top of the shell when we animate the leg. So, question from Jitesh on YouTube says, Don, how do you accept projects where clients want something you struggle with? I mean, it's good to take up client projects for learning purposes, ? Wonderful question. So the question that Jitesh has on YouTube says, how do you accept projects where the client wants something that I struggle with? Well, first off, I use a lot of transparency. So if I'm going to accept a project that I know I'm going to struggle with, I'm at a spot right now where I don't mind losing clients. When I was just starting out, I would try to do whatever it takes to not lose the client. Like I would really go out of my way to maybe not tell them that I'm struggling with something, which maybe you need to do in the beginning so that you can build your portfolio up. But now, like, I'll just tell my client honestly. I'll just give them a call, or I'll send them an email, or I'll jump on a video call with them and say, hey, I know you want me to do certain tasks on this project. I'll be honest with you, I struggle with that. So I'm down to do it, but know that it's going to take longer. And honestly, when you tell a client that, they trust you more because you're just being honest with them. If you tell them where you struggle, they might back off a little bit. They might understand, like, oh, thank you for letting us know. Or maybe they'll go with somebody else, which maybe they need to do, because if you're not fully capable of doing something and they have some deadlines, they might need to go with somebody else. So that's one way that I deal with that concept of You know, how do you take on work that you might struggle in? So yeah, that's one way. And then the second thing is, I'm gonna set this mode to smooth. The second thing is, yeah, so just to reiterate, the first thing is be honest with your clients. If you're gonna struggle with something, you should probably tell them. But know that, like, when I was first starting out with like paid gigs for 3D animation stuff, I might not have been fully transparent with how complicated this stuff was because I needed to grow my portfolio. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question of, like, the question for those of you just joining, Jitesh on YouTube asked, how do you accept projects where the client wants something that you struggle with? And my answer is, you got to tell them that you're struggling with it so that they can either hire somebody else, or maybe you can, like, you know, have them ease up on you a bit. I do encourage you to take projects that are challenging though, because if you only take projects that you're comfortable with, you can't actually grow because you're only staying in your comfort zone. You got to jump out of your comfort zone if you want to learn a new skill set. Okay, so I moved, like, for example, I didn't always know how to rig. How I learned rigging was I took on a very, very ambitious project in 2015 when I was just starting 3D animation. A company was going to do, they wanted me to animate a character on their movie production company. And I was like, huh, that sounds like a wonderful opportunity for me to learn animation. And they thought I could do 3D animation because they saw my 2D animation stuff. And I had to tell them, let me flip the camera real quick. So for that happen, they wanted me to animate a mammoth that was going to run towards the camera and then freeze frame so that their logo for their motion picture company would appear afterwards. I didn't know how to model stuff. I didn't know how to rig anything, but I said, I can do it. I said, it's going to take me a couple months, but I can do it. And they're like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. And I'll be honest, I didn't totally know how to do it, but I believed in my work ethic. If I was put under that pressure of you said you can do something and you have a client that pays you money, I trust myself enough that I know I'll learn whatever it takes if I put myself in that condition. I work really well under stress and pressure, which is great for companies. Maybe not that great for mental health, but companies love it. So when you're just starting out, they love folks that are like that. So that's worked out in its benefits. So I accepted the work. I take on the challenge, even if I can't do it, or even if I don't have the skill set yet, I still take on the work. And then, for me, that forces me to learn it, because then otherwise you're going to have a pissed off client. And if I did fully screw up, which is rare, but if I did fully screw up, I actually offer discounts. You know, I let them know, like, hey, I screwed up, and you shouldn't pay the full price for my mistakes. So I'll offer discounts for clients where I screw up stuff. Anywho, we've finished weight painting this back leg. Let me test it out. We're going to grab the back left claw somewhere, this one, and we're going to grab our move tool, and let's see if that moves correctly. Yeah, that looks like a good movement. Just testing it out. Seeing some weird movement above the shell, which we don't want to have move. Like up here, I see some weird motion. So let me grab my character's back left leg again. Or, yeah, this one. And then let's go to our weight paint tool. And then make sure we're holding control and just hitting absolute and just turning off any possibility of selecting those extra points there. I'm going to go back to my leg control. Grab our move tool and just test its motion. There we go. It looks like it's fixed. Cool. Tool. We got 2 more legs to rig. Not bad. We're making some good progress. So let me save my work. Let's move to the next leg. We'll work on the middle right leg. So let's test it out first. So you see all the problems. See how the shell is moving with the leg movement. And we also see how the abdomen is moving. It's just all over the place. So again, we need to go to our weight paints and take a look at that leg. So let me collapse these two on this leg, or no, this one. Or which leg are we on? That one. This is the middle right back leg. So take a look. When we grab the whole leg, we see how a lot of the weight paint is on the upper shell, and a ton of it's also awkwardly like underneath the belly. So we don't want weights over here. Oh wow! Thank you, Shivam, for your words on YouTube. It's a pleasure to have you here. All right, so we're going to do the same thing. We needed to paint the weights better for our leg here. So we grab our geometry, we grab our weight paint brush, and I have it set to mark polygons that are invisible as well. and we're going to set this from smooth to absolute, which just paints an absolute value. And we can increase the brush size. Be careful with the brush size here. If you paint with a big brush, it does a big demand on the CPU of your computer. So I try to keep my brush sizes relatively small when I'm weight painting, because it's a big calculation for sure. So, and I don't want to crash my computer. It's never my goal. I mean, I crash it probably every week a couple times, but anywho. So now you see how the left leg is only in that area that is responsible for the leg, but we get that really hard transition between the shells. So we need to grab our mode and set it to smooth, and now we're going to smooth out that transition so that it nicely we get a nice gradient from the influence of this bone, so that it will slowly influence the shell and the geometry around the shell less and less as it gets further and further away from the core bones of our body. Give me a second to stretch real quick. Getting some tight shoulders. Gotta stretch. Also, it's really hot over here. Let me see if I can get my air conditioning. There we go. It's hard to move this blue screen. I wish I had a formal set back here. All right. So we got our weight paints on that leg. Let's test it out. So to test, again, we have to just grab the leg that you want to control. I'm going to grab this spot here and then move it. It's working pretty well, but I see it's doing that same problem where it's moving areas that aren't the rig. So way up there in the top, it's moving parts of the shell. So we're going to need to go back to our weight paint brush and make sure that we're not painting any blue influence on the top parts of that shell. So I'm going to go to my leg geometry, grab our weight paint tool, grab our right leg, and then with the absolute brush set back on in our mode, we're just going to hold control and make sure that we're absolutely not selecting anything above that part of the rig. So I'm just painting an absolute value is so that, we don't want any influence of other polygons up there. Okay, so if that works nicely, we should be able to grab our leg again, and it should move just the leg and not the shell. Let me check it out. That looks great. Yeah, that looks like a great leg to animate. Cool. So there we go. So we've rigged all 3 legs, and I'm pretty happy with that, which is super fun, super dope. So I'll just show you real quick. We have our master rigs, so we can actually move like 2 legs at once. Look at this. So we can have them like running and stuff if we need to. Let me grab the next 2 legs, see how these ones move together. Whoa! I'm seeing some big problems. I don't know why. It's almost like it forgot our weight paint. Oh, we haven't rigged that leg yet. Haha, I almost forgot. We have 1 more leg we need to rig. That's the problem about rigging multiple legs, is you forget like, oh, I thought I rigged all the legs, and then you remember, you're like, oh, I didn't rig a whole leg. So let's work on this last leg here. So we got our creature, and what we want to do is fix the weight painting. That's the influence of the geometry. It's the influence of the bones on the skin of the geometry. So I'm going to find the leg that we want. This looks like it's the middle left leg. We're going to grab that geometry and then grab our weight paint. And I hope that you're able to see what the problem is now. Now that you've seen how we've rigged literally all the other legs, you can probably see what the problem is. You see how right now everything in blue is what the current thing thinks is the leg. And you and me as humans, we know very clearly that the shell should not be the leg. It's a totally different anatomical part. So what we need to do is remove the influence of the leg bone from the shell. We don't want the shell to be influenced by our leg. So with this weight paint brush turned on, and we have our mode set to absolute, we're going to hold control to subtract the influence. See that? We're just subtracting the influence. We do not want the leg to move the shell. And we only want it to partially move the underbelly. So I'm just going to erase any parts that are not relevant for this rig to have. I've also noticed a lot of them were accidentally grabbing higher up, so I'm just going to hold control and just go through and make sure that there's no polygons that it's accidentally applying any other controls to other than these legs, other than this back leg or middle leg here. Great, and then we're going to go back in, so you get this nice cutout, but we need to smooth out those transitions. So just to show you the problem before we smooth it out, if we go back to grab our leg here, watch what happens if you have a fast transition. See how it bends nicely, but you see how the polygons stretch like that? That can be nice sometimes, but in the case of an organic creature, you don't want to create this, like, we don't want that. We don't want the geometry to do this stretching. So that's why we got to gradually reduce the influence. Because if you have a very hard transition of influence of the bone on your geometry, it's going to make this really bad transition. So we want to smooth out that transition. So we're going to grab our model, and instead of giving it this super sharp color that goes from like 100% value to a lesser value, we want to smooth that out. So we grab our weight paintbrush and set the mode to smooth, and then we just make the brush a little bit bigger, and then just smooth out the influence a little bit. See that? We're just going through, and you see how it actually turns it into more of a gradient? That's how you know it's working. So I'm on my left leg here, and I'm just smoothing out the influence so that it just gradually reduces its influence on the rest of the body. Because if you do a nice gradual transition, you won't get the same breakage and problems that you get from a lot of models, from a lot of rigs that you see on the internet and other VFX studios and things. So I'm just kind of smoothing out the transition in the organic areas, but we want to keep it 100% value on the hard areas. All right, so that looks like a pretty smooth transition. Let's double check our movement by grabbing our foot and seeing if it works. That's looking pretty good. Yeah, amazing. All right, so let's save our project. I think we've now rigged all of our legs. So let me test that theory. Let me grab my right leg, left leg, my second right leg, my second left leg, and see if I can move all these together. Yay, we can. And let's see if they bend nicely. Oh, that's cool. So we can totally bend our rig now, and it feels a lot more organic. We get all the nice movement underneath here. And you can do all sorts of stuff. We can even like rotate this control. Look at that. So you can have them like dancing if you need to. Dancing crab. We can have them twisting and walking. Great. Let me take a look at our claws. So let me grab my right claw and my left claw and see if these ones rotate nicely. Yeah, we get a nice little shoulder movement. Great. We got a nice little twist there. I'm okay with that twist. I'm not thrilled with that twist, but actually let me double check from the other angle. Yeah, that's fine. Great. And let's check each one by itself. So this is just the hand. Great. And let's try the other, just the hand. Just testing the rig out. Oh, we got some questions in the comments. Big fan of your work. Oh, wow. Thank you. All right. So I think the main parts are rigged. Let's work on the head now. Let's see if the head rig is okay. So I'm going to go to my position and play with the head position real quick. Interesting. It's not letting me move the head control, so that might be a red flag. Let me see if... Ooh, yeah, we need to fix that. So I don't want the head motion in here to actually affect... I don't want the head here to affect the shell. I only want to rotate what's inside the shell versus what we have right now is as we're moving it. I mean, there is some coolness to having it move the shell a little bit, but I want most of the motion in here to be around the eyeball and the mouth instead of the shell, because the shell is like a hard surface material, so it shouldn't, bend the same way. Again, let's save our work, and we have to fix that again. So we'll grab our geometry, and then we'll grab our weight paintbrush, and now we need to find out where is the head control. So here's the head. This is what it currently thinks the head is. I don't blame it. That's a pretty good guess. Let's see what it thinks head 1 is and head 2. Interesting. So it looks like it just has all one head. So what I'm going to do is use our absolute brush first and just remove the areas that I absolutely don't want to move an influence. So I'm going to use my control to remove it, and we're just kind of subtracting out any geometry that I don't want it to move with 100% intensity. So we're just kind of subtracting it all out of here. Great. So I mostly want to move what's underneath the shell. That's why I'm trying to just isolate our selection to just underneath the shell here. Awesome, awesome. Just keep going, just erasing stuff, reducing our brush size, intensity. Okay, so now, let's actually work a little bit down here as well. Yeah, let's do that. That looks good. All right, so now just the inside of the head is going to move. It's considered the head. But now we get the same problem where we have a hard transition. And just so I can show you the problem that we need to fix, take a look. If we grab our head controller here and go to our rotation tag, if we rotate the head, you see how we get this really bad stretching of polygons around the edges? That's again because the influence goes from 100% influence to no influence within, you know, within one polygon. So that's when you're going to get this really bad stretching, and it can make your, you know, it can be really distracting for your story. So instead, let's smooth that out. But first, let me save it because I'm always scared it's going to crash. We got some questions here on YouTube. It says, Jitesh says, Don, can we limit the transformation like rotation and position to limit it for organic movements? Yes, you can. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience with that feature. The tool that you would be looking into is called constraints, and you can create hard limits for your rig where it's not allowed to bend past a certain point. So for example, what's cool to play with in rigs is if you have constraints on how far like a neck can bend. Maybe you don't want the neck to be able to pass like a certain degree angle. So you can add these things called constraints inside of Cinema 4D, Maya, Blender, Houdini that create a limitation of how far a rig can move. Disney Animation Studios has really insane constraint rigs. So the character rig Moana, if you've seen Moana, her rig has really, really, really high performance constraints. So it was very hard for animators working on Moana to make the character into an unflattering pose, because they put constraints on how far the facial expressions can go, how far movements can go on the rig. But by the way, the process that you're seeing right here is identical to what studios like Disney would do in rigging characters. They're, you know, kind of weight painting and, you know, adding influence here, subtracting influence there, and just kind of going through and piece by piece. Okay, right back to it. We're going to grab our geometry. I'm going to grab our head geometry, and then we're going to grab our weight paint brush and set it to smooth, I hope. Where is it? Oh, go to mode absolute, set it to smooth. And then I'm just going to smooth out the transition in here. Look at that. I love it. You can just go in here and you see how we're just breaking up that hard shift so that we get a nice gradual bending of the, you know, of a gradual blending of the material here. I think I might have overshot it a little bit over here, so we probably want to erase some of that. But definitely underneath the face, I want to blend all that so we get a nice organic movement underneath the jaw and lower chin region. Just going to smooth all of that out. Yeah, the more times you go over it, you can just see how it's just making like a gradient. And a gradient in this context is super helpful because it's going to make it a smooth transition from what should be a hard surface into what should be a squishy organic surface. If you've seen some of my previous rigs, you'll know that I ignore this sometimes a lot because if it's a personal project that is trying to practice a different skill set, I might just not care about solving all the problems. All right, let me go to subtract or absolute, and then we're going to absolutely subtract this hard shell here. Oops. Let me hold Alt key and subtract from our model here. Weird. It's not. Oh, sorry. Alt's the wrong key. You have to hold Control. There we go. And since this is like a shell here, I'm okay with it being a hard cutoff right here. I want it to be pretty gradual on the parts that are not shells. But for the shell itself, since it should be a hard surface, I want it to be a very stark transition. You know, we shouldn't be able to bend a shell like we bend the skin. So that looks like a much smoother weight paint now, right? I'm now going to turn on a box called Visible Only. This will allow us to actually only apply our weight paint to visible polygons. So I'm just going to add a little bit here. It's weird how it's a totally different color though. Why is that? Oh, okay. I guess I just had the different brush. So I'm just going to add a little bit of influence there. Great. And then I'm going to go back and go to my smooth brush and just smooth out that transition. And then again, smooth out underneath the neck here, underneath the chin. Just smoothing it all out, creating a nice soft gradient so that we get a nice soft bend into the more organic parts of our model. Okay, so if that worked out, let's test out the rig. Let's go to our master control, go to our head controller, grab our rotator, and see what we get. That's much better. So now the character can like look around and stuff. Ooh, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. I saw some bad bending. All right, so that's some bad bending right here. You can see how it's stretching the polygons. So we're probably going to want to smooth that area out. Let me test the other side, see if we're getting any. Oh yeah, we're getting them there. So we should smooth it out on both sides, it looks like. Let's try up and down. Up and down's pretty good. Might want to smooth it up a little bit on the top so we don't get as much bending. And let's do any twisting action here. Oh yeah, so the same area needs to be fixed. So we just want to smooth out that transition underneath that skin there. So let's go ahead and save this project again. Go back to our geometry. Go back to our head control. It's a lot of back and forth, as you can see. And with that here, I'm going to go to my weight paints again. We'll go to our absolute, and I'm going to subtract some geometry again. It's weird how it's not subtracting it. Oh, sorry. We go to absolute and then hold Alt, and then we can subtract here. Because I don't want to move the shell too much. So I'm just going to first subtract out the shell parts that were causing problems. I'm going to do the same thing over here. Subtract out the areas that caused the problems. And then now that it's subtracted, now we can smooth out that transition in there. So we'll go to our mode, set it to smooth, and then we'll just make the brush nice and tiny and just smooth out that transition. And just by that alone, we're going to get a much more organic bending of the head so that it's not going to bend the shell as much as it's going to gradually, you know, stretch it underneath the skin like we would expect of some kind of fleshy creature like this. I got to reiterate, it's so fun seeing something come to life. Oh, question from Jitesh says, like, there's no need of a 360 rotation of every joint. Exactly. Yeah, because like in 3D, you know, we can defy the laws of physics and reality. We can defy the laws of anatomy. And you can have stuff that bends like a cartoon. But for certain things, you don't want it to do that per se. You want to have it more organic in nature. So there we go. I just made a lot of smoothness in here, just adding all that smooth transition. So that looks really smooth. Let me turn off my display grid. Yeah, that looks like a very smooth transition. I'm seeing a little weird influence here, but it's not as a dark shade there. So let me go back to our tool, go to add. Let me make sure I'm adding all of that into our mouth shape there. Okay, so that looks like a pretty good weight paint. Let me just do that there as well. Oh, went a little too far over here on the side of the face. Let me grab our smooth brush and smooth out that transition. There we go. So it's a nice gradient. It's kind of cool, right? Like you're like painting your program. You're painting it all over, but the painting is for a totally different purpose. You know, we're not worrying about painting for texture right now. We're painting for physical influence of our bones on our geometry. So let's test it out. Let me save it and then go to our head controller, bring up our R for rotation, and let's see what we get. So up and down, it's looking much better. And let's see left and right. That looks much, much better. And then let's twist it. That looks great. Yay! We got a nice solid rig here. And we can move it around. You can look around. Great. Okay. Let's see how we're doing in all contexts. So, oh, darn it. We still got to work on the root. So for whatever reason, it doesn't think the shell is part of the root. So we need to add that. And then we'll be done, because I think we got, yeah, we have the claws. We have both claws rigged. Yeah, we have the head rigged now. We have all 4 of our legs for our quadruped creature. Let me just double check. I really like these legs. Sorry, just thinking of how it's going to move. All right, let me save this. So now we got to work on that shell. So that's considered our root controller. So let's grab our geometry again. Ah, we can actually see the problem right here. You see how there's no influence on this part of the shell? It doesn't assign any home to that. So we got to find out what part of the geometry it thinks that is. So it might be part of the head here. No? Thorax? Oh, it's the thorax. Ah, yes, the thorax. Cool. Yeah, so I'm seeing the problem. So we need to adjust what is the thorax. So let's turn back on our display grid so we can see all of our polygons in a nice hyper mesh. And let's grab our weights, our weight painting tool, Hello, folks on Instagram. We're live streaming onto YouTube right now if you want full audio quality and full screen, all the buttons. And yeah, we're weight painting so that we can rig our character. So I'm going to consider the thorax pretty much, the main body of our character. So I'm going to go in here and start painting what I want to move with our root controller. So I'm considering the thorax of my character. Whoa, I lost my brush size. What's going on? There it is. I'm going to consider the thorax of my character just like the entire shell, really. I want all the shell to move together. So we're just going through, and since the shell is a hard surface, it's okay to actually have a pretty hard line on what is allowed to move and what is not allowed to move for this part of the body. But what it's going to be a little hard for me, though, is we want a lot of the lower body to also move with the thorax, so that otherwise, if we just have the upper shell painted and you don't paint the abdomen of our character, then it's going to only move the shell and it's going to look, really weird. So I'm going to first, do all this painting up in here. We're going to leave out the head control because I think we want the head to be controlled by a different part, I think. I might need to test my theory on that in a minute. So let me just test my theory real quick. This is by no means not done at all. I'm just kind of doing like a work in progress here on these controls, just trying to see if we got a nice enough influence on the upper body of our character enough to test it out and see if it moves nicely. Okay, so let me take a look at our rig here. Let's go to our root controller and let's bring up our rotator and make sure that our root is moving nicely. So I'm going to go to my root. Here's the root. Let's go to rotate. Ooh, so maybe we do want to grab more parts of the rig. Let me see. I wonder, can you double paint something? Can I paint the face and the thorax? Let me go to, because I'm happy with the claws and stuff. Because I know like the head is great. We have a really good head controller here, right? I'm really happy with this movement. We get really nice fluid control. But I would like to maybe move. I'm just going to test it out. I haven't tried this yet, so I have this theory in my head. And when I have a theory, we just got to test it out. So I know we've labeled this as the head of the character, and we're labeling this as the thorax. Okay, here's an idea. What if I parented the head to the thorax? Let me see if that... Oh, it doesn't let me do that. It doesn't like that decision. Okay, that doesn't work. It's weird. So, it thinks the head is separate from the thorax. I do kind of want that, but let me see. What would happen if we just decided to paint a lot more of the model and paint over an area that already has texture on it? Let me see if that is going to break it or what. So I'm going to set this to add and see what happens if we were to add like more of it. So actually I'm going to switch to an orthographic view here, and we have it set to paint visible only. I'm going to display our line shading and then just see what happens if I were to paint all of this. I'm scared it's going to erase our other work, but I need to test it out. So it's important to do this kind of stuff. Let's go to our display here, go to our side. Great. And then let's go to our perspective view. Let's move our abdomen, our belly, and under parts of our character. Great. All right, so let me just see what happens if that moves like the entire shell, or if it's like gonna break the universe here. It might just break the universe. In fact, it's more than likely that is gonna cause some tremendous problems, but I need to see it. So let's go and test it out. Oops, my blue screen. Okay. So let's see. We go to our root controller here. There's our root. And let me bring up rotation and see what happens. Interesting. So it kind of works, but it also doesn't really work. Does the head control still work? Okay, so that's nice. The head control still works really nicely, which I mostly want. But then our root control is kind of intense, right? Like this is not great. So I guess maybe what we'll do is oh, no, we don't want to do that. That's bad. That's a bad root control. Or a bad master control. What's going on, folks? Let's see what's going on. So that's our weight here. We have our thorax. We have the head. We have the claw, the other claw. We have each of the separate legs now painted nicely. The hardest part for me is just this. Yeah, it's this stuff. It's the thorax. I don't really know what to do here. So when in doubt, keep working. So I'm gonna grab the thorax again. Go to my retopology brush. Oh, we got some questions in the live stream. Probably Redshift or Octane. Believe it or not, this is neither. This is actually the built-in render engine inside of Cinema 4D. We are not actually on the surfacing, or I surfaced it in a different tool, but I brought all the textures in. But this is all real time. This is the native Cinema 4D renderer. This is not the one with the lighting and caustics and all that stuff. We got a question from Jitesh over on YouTube. Says, Don, can we limit? The parts you have removed using absolute have been probably excluded from the root as well. Oh, that's good to know. Darn it, I didn't know what that meant. So I guess additive means you can have two areas influenced by two sets of bones, maybe. I'm happy we're learning that now, but for my next project. But good point. All right, so let me see if we set this to, darn, that's going to involve a little bit of a workaround. So I have the mode set to additive here. I'm going to set this to mark all things. And let's say we want our root, we want our thorax to be all of this in here. So let me switch it as much as I can to a flat projection. And then let's see what happens if we just paint in 100% additive influence on all the interior bits of our character here. It's probably a huge calculation because it's painting all through it. Oh wow, we actually end up painting a lot of the legs there. Whoops. Holding control to remove some of that. Alright, let's get some weird upper angles here to grab different parts of our shell and thorax. Alright, and then let's use that same tool from before, the smooth tool, to smooth out some of that selection. Just going to keep adding some more data points to the bottom of our material, and then go to our weight paint settings and set this to smooth. Now I'm going to try to smooth out the regions around the joints here. Great, so we're just kind of smoothing it all out. Kind of looks like a light source right now, which is pretty interesting. All right, so let's see. I think that should be all of what I want as the thorax, so hopefully this works. If not, we've made some tremendous mistakes earlier. And that's why we do this, especially on personal projects, because this is the kind of stuff that, you know, if you don't practice, you're going to jump into a client and you're going to run into all these errors and you're going to be wasting time. And now I'll know, like, oh, there might be a difference between using absolute and additive weight painting. All right, so let me grab what I think is the thorax and see what we get. Okay, actually, that's awesome. That's way awesome. That's totally closer to what I was hoping it would look like. We're getting some weird stretching in here, but that's okay. I don't think I'll move this control that much. I'm just testing it out in all different directions, seeing if we get some good, seeing if we get some good movement. So this is our root controller. Whoa, so it looks really bad if you go in a forward and backwards plane. For whatever reason, it doesn't like that. But it really likes going left and right, and it really likes going up and down. So, you know, I could just animate like this. Like I could just add like little bounce movements to it, or we could just use a rotate tag on here. Let me see if that looks cool. If we add some rotation on here, yeah, so that looks good. We get some nice, yeah. So what we can do is maybe I'll just be a little bit more subtle with this controller here, because this one's pretty sensitive. So we'll just think of this control as like limited. You know, we can't really get away with doing really exaggerated motions without really breaking our rig. But yeah, I mean, this is going to be fine for what I want to animate. Great, let me make sure that the right claw and left claw still are happy. Yep, claw is happy. Let me try the left claw. Let's see if you're still happy. Yep, we got a happy claw here. Yeah, all that's looking good. Let's grab the head control. Great, we still got nice control of the head. It can go side to side, it can go up and down. Does it twist? Yes, we can get a nice twist in there too. Great. All right, let's jump into the left leg here and grab our position modifier. Yeah, that looks like a good crabby leg. Great, and then let's grab this leg. That looks good. All right, let's check out the other leg. Cool, we got that one. It's working fine for me. And then we got this like last back leg. Great. I'm happy with this, folks. Yeah, we got these nice crab volcanic legs of our creature. Let me see if we can rotate them and not break. So they're not too happy to rotate. That's okay. I'll just be careful. Okay. So great, we got this whole thing modeled yesterday. We painted it last night at 1 a.m. and then now the character's fully rigged. So we could technically move into the next phase, which is animation. Let me save my work. Excuse me. I'm going to take a quick moment to look at comments both here on Instagram as well as the comments here on YouTube to see if we're missing anything. So Jitesh on YouTube says, you can double paint. Weight paint is independent for each bone. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that. I have hiccups. Oh, no. Got hiccups. All right, question from Base Stroke on Instagram says, wonder what the VFX portion of hearing fix it in post is. The VFX version of fix it in post with regards to rigging would be, we'll just not like, we'll say, oh, we'll make a variant. We'll make a rig variant for that problem that you see in the current rig. Okay. Great. So you can double paint, weight paint. Learn something new every day. That's why I love doing these streams. And I got these legs moved. You can dance now. And I've got nicely, evenly painted areas. I'm seeing some dark area here underneath the arm a little bit, but I think it's okay because I didn't notice any problems. Let me grab our our left claw and see if we're getting any weird movement. No, that looks pretty good. Only thing that we have left that I was curious about, which I don't see a control for, when I rigged this character, it should have a, let me just see if I can display all controllers. Huh, I don't see the option here. All right, let's just save our work and let me think of a little animation that we can make for this character because he's rigged. He's ready to go. So I'm thinking of having him walk. So first thing we got to do is do a little animation study. We had insects here to create the rigging. We used that thorax concept because I thought that was the closest to our character. Now what I'm going to do is go onto YouTube myself here and just look up crab walk cycle and then go to videos. And here's a nice crab walk cycle, allegedly. Let's take a look. Interesting. So the crab walk cycle is very much, if you just look at one bit of it at a time, it's there's a slight offset. So the crab leg looks like it goes out. Actually, it's so interesting. It goes left and right, so they don't even move forward and back. I forgot that. Crabs walk sideways. I can't believe I forgot that. This is why we look at animation, like, this is why it's important to look at reality. Oh, wow, look at that. So this one, it's the same idea. It's kind of like a march. It goes up and out, over and over again. Okay, we can do that. That doesn't look too bad. And then we'll add secondary animation later. So let's start animating. Let's save it. We're going to switch our context again to animation. We go up to the top here from rigging and set it to animate. I'm going to resize it so I can see the comments here on YouTube. And now we're going to start animating our crab. I'm just going to create a very simple, very friendly walk cycle, I hope. I don't know. I've never animated a crab like this before. Nor have I made a crab rig live and then animated it. So there might be some problems. But I think the rig was looking pretty good. So yeah, we should be able to do this. All right, so walk cycle. I'll just work on one leg at a time and just treat it, you know, bit by bit. So I'm going to work on this back leg first. And let's just start off with our start and end position. So we got our leg control here. I'm going to grab the coordinates of it. We're going to just animate the position of this. So that's on frame 0. I set some keyframes. I'm going to go to frame 10 and maybe set this to another location. I don't know, maybe up here. Yeah. And then we'll set, actually we can turn on auto key, which is this button here. So now whatever you animate, it's going to actually set a keyframe for you. See that? It's a really nice way of animation. So maybe I'll just go up and to the side here. So now we got that to that, and then let's bring that foot back down to that first position. All right, so now at least we got an up and we have a down. Let's set it to that down and push it out, and then drag that back in. So let's see what we get. Okay, let's reset the timing a bit. And we also can change our looping in point and looping out point. So I just love how you can just change that, and then now you're able to loop it just in that area. So I want to create a kind of seamless loop for a moment. So I'm just going to reduce that frame range to maybe frame 30 here. And let's see how that's looking. Okay, not bad. You see how we get this kind of triangular motion? I want to smooth that out. So I'm going to grab this point of our spline. Weird, I don't see the anchor points for it. I guess we'll just grab these 2 points, and I'm just going to add a smooth modifier. Oh wow, that took off the smooth. How do I don't know, I'm blanking on my curves. So curves are how things move in space. So if I go to my, so there's like, this is called the dope sheet. It lets you put markers in time to see when stuff is being animated. So usually when I'm starting to animate something, I block stuff out here. You want to get like your core timing done in blocks first. The other thing I'm noticing is we should look back at our reference and just take a look at the crab walk again. It's a lot smaller and a lot more subtle than I have it. So I'm going to go to both of these keyframes here and lower them. So we get, yeah, that feels a little bit better. We're also going to maybe go a little bit further out. So I'm going to take this position and move that leg a little bit further away. And that should be fine. It's looking like it's too fast, so let me just do that. Maybe slow that down a little bit. Or, sorry, increase the speed, I mean, sorry. Offsetting the timing here. So it goes up, and maybe let's get this to be a little bit more in the center position. Great, I like that, whatever this is. It just does, I don't know, there's something about it that I don't like though. Let me set this to linear and see if that helps my brain. Okay, and then let's set this to interpolated. And now I'm going to jump into the curve editor, and now we can actually play with the actual slope of acceleration between points in time. So here's with a lot of easing. I don't like that. It's a little too robotic. So let me just grab maybe this point, and hopefully you can just smooth that out. This is the that Y position. That feels a little bit better to me. Let's try this value and move that up or down, or change the speed of it in and out. Okay, that feels a little bit better. Let's go back to our dope sheet and take all these keys and just stretch them in together. Or we can stretch these out. Maybe offset the timing here. Okay, that looks right. So I think this is the latest version of Cinema 4D, and I heard that you can actually copy keyframes over to other layers. So let me try it. I've never tried it before. So let's do Control-C to copy. Let me save it in case it crashes. And then we'll go to the next leg in our scene. So that was left back leg. Let me try this next leg right here. And then let's see if I can just paste it. I don't know if it worked. Let me try it. Okay, it looks like it did not work. Let me try copying the keys again. Let me right click, and maybe if we do copy curves, if that's an option. I don't see it there. What about function? No. Edit. I see a copy. Okay, let me try that. We've copied the data. I'm going to my next leg. I'm going to grab that control and then paste it. Nope, nothing. Okay, so I guess you can't do that yet. Darn. I thought you could, because I think I saw that in a demo somewhere, but whatever reason, I don't see the option. Anywho, let's work on the next leg. So here's the other back left leg. Oh, weird. It does have keyframes there, but they're not animated. All right, whatever. Let's just work on it. So I'm going to go to this leg here and kind of give it an up value. What's going on? Oh, there's no keys. So let's set keys there. And then let's set some keys here. And let's set some keys all the way back over here. Great. So we're on this spot. We're going to go to this spot. I'm going to kind of try to mimic the pose that I liked with the other leg here. And we have it set to auto key, so they're going to be kind of mirrored for a second. Then on this spot, we'll do a down pose and bring that leg out. Great. And then we'll go back in. So right now they're going to be aligned together, but I'm going to offset their timing once I'm happy with the motion. We can also add some more angular motion to this too. So I'm thinking maybe this leg actually comes forward a bit when it's walking. And then maybe that forward motion kind of follows through over here. Oh yeah, it feels much better with it being more angular like that on the leg position. Yeah, let me save my work in case it crashes. We're going to keep saying that all day today. All right, let's set this one a little bit more forward in space time. And then let's set this also a little bit more forward in space time. So now we get this kind of this kind of motion here. It's kind of cool. And it's very easy to offset the timing. So if I set my frame range a little bit further, we can take the second set of leg movement and offset it. So now we can get this kind of like walk cycle. Or I can make it really offset. So maybe like when one's down, the other one's up. Okay, so cool. I'm going to keep them all the same timing though for now, just for my own brain to not have to think about the offsetting of the legs. And now let's work on the other two legs. So I'm going to grab the right front leg, set some keyframes in the position in space-time, and make sure that we end it in that same position in space-time. And then we'll go to here. I'm going to set this leg over here to the left. And then we'll keep it on the left. Great, and then we're going to move it up in Z space. Awesome. Let's work on the next leg. We'll go to the right middle leg. And same idea, we're going to set a keyframe at the start position and set a keyframe on the end position. And now we just interpolate between the two. So I'm going to slide this up, to the side and up. And then we'll go here and we'll slide this up and down. Great. Awesome, awesome. All right, so I don't know if we got the right walking gait or not, but let's just check it out. So the legs are kind of all on the same timing. And what we could do is just grab each one of these and offset them. So I can grab this layer and we can do an offset. Oops. Layer, offset. Layer, offset. Layer, offset. And one more layer, offset. I have no idea what it's going to look like, but let's see. Looks kind of like a gallop right now. Not the greatest, but also it looks a little bit like a slow gait. I feel like this creature would walk a lot faster than that. In my mind, it would walk faster. All right, let me reset these all back. Okay, I'm going to take the two right legs and set their gait a little bit further to the side here. And then for the two left legs, we'll do the same thing. We're going to kind of offset their gait so that they start inwards. And then they go out and they go back to their start position. And then we'll get rid of these keys. Okay, so we got this nice kind of lateral movement. And now I want to offset the timing of each leg. I don't really know how crabs walk. So, yeah. Yeah, I said it. I don't know how they walk, so I'm just going to experiment here. Cool. I'm going to grab all the legs and push them hopefully forward in space. Is that a thing? Oh, that's just those two legs. All right, let's speed up the speed of their motion. So I'm just going to grab all those keyframes and squish them together. And now we should get a really nice fast gallop. I think there's a way in Cinema 4D to repeat keyframes. So let me remember how to do that real quick, because there should be a tool that lets you have like an infinite repeater on each layer. So I think it's under cycles. If I go to function, track after, no. Where is it called? Simplify, no. View, motion system, no. F curve, key, cycle, there it is. I think it's under cycle. And I can cycle this animation a bunch of times. So I'm going to cycle this, I don't know, 12 times. There you go. So now you see how it did is it actually put all the keyframes there next. So what we should do is probably, we should grab all of our keys, right click on our F curve, no, our function, our frame, which one was it? Oh, key. And then we'll go to key cycle. And I'm going to set this to key it 12 times. So now we got this nice continuous walk cycle, hopefully. So let's see what happens. Yes, there we go. So now we got this nice continuous walk cycle for the crab legs. Great. Let's work on the next part. So we got a nice continuous walk cycle. I love it. Let's work on the head. So we're going to go to our head controller here, bring up our rotation modifier, and pause it. And we're going to start off with the character looking, around. So maybe we'll just kind of, I'm going to bring the gaze of the character up, down a little bit here. And so we got a keyframe marked. So we'll do a start and an end position. So maybe we'll start here, and then maybe right here we'll have an end. Let me get rid of that key. All right, so we're going to have the character start looking left. And then I'm going to have it end by looking, well, we'll have it end in the same spot. So let me set my keys for my character's head control here to rotate on that same spot. And then halfway through, we'll have the character's head look to the other side. So now we got this nice little head movement. Cool. I want to add more head movement, of course. So let's offset this timing a bit so that we can maybe have the character's head look left and then it maybe looks right. You know, make it freaky. We'll have to ease in the timing between these keyframes. But, you know, the principles are similar. So I'm just going to kind of create some different motion for the head here. Let's keep it on that position for a couple of frames. And then we'll have the character maybe look up at somebody. Keep that for a couple of frames, and then it will return back. So now we should have some like little head motions there. Oh yeah, that looks good. Okay, so he's going to move his head around. I don't like this slow head movement here. It feels a little unnatural, so I'm going to offset the timing there so it kind of looks. And then looks over there, and looks up, looks around. It's kind of a lot of movement. I might reduce it. Let's grab all those keyframes, go into our F-curve modifier, and I'm going to add easing between all of this. Just adding little bumps into the curves just so we get this nice little kind of jiggle that happens underneath the skin. They're a bit delayed. What is? Don, YouTube comments, keep an eye on them. Oh, so sorry. You can't copy and paste animation like that because keyframes have data associated with the specific rigged part of the mesh. Keyframe on the left, back. Oh, I see. Don, the leg isn't right. Watch the reference video. The leg of a crab cannot move inward. Got it. That is a good point. I'm okay with breaking physics, though. That's part of the fun of animating cartoon characters, is defying physics, you know, not being constrained to what physics says is the only options for your motion. Okay, there we go. So we got a nice little movement for the eyeball now. I like that. Great. All right, I'm going to save my project real quick, and we'll go into the next control. Let's see this root. See if we can add just some undulation on the rotation of our crab shell. So I'm going to set a start keyframe here on the dope sheet. So we're going to go to our master root control. We're going to go to our rotation and set some keyframes. And then we'll go to the end of our modifier and set the same rotational keyframes. And then right about here, we're just going to add a little bit of jiggle to the, just tilt the body forward a little bit. So it just kind of creates a little bit more organic movement. Trying to be very subtle with this rotation modifier so that it's really not too extreme. Oops, looks like we're getting some weird keyframes in my root controller. Oh, that's the head controller. I see. We're good. Okay. All right, so I just added some rotations there, and then we want to make sure that our end root is the same as our start root. So I'm going to go to my head root and paste that keyframe to the end of this here. There we go. So now we get a little bit of motion on our shell while the character is moving, which will kind of just help add a little bit of life. And I'm going to go in and just add even more secondary motion and secondary twisting. There we go. So now we got this nice little looping motion there on the shell. Only thing I don't like is that end position. So let me just copy my first keyframe, end it. Okay, cool. So now we got this kind of panicked running little monster crab thing. I like it. Let me save this. Okay. Next thing, let's get these claws in action or something. So I'm going to take both my claws and just see what happens if I rotate them up. Oh, that's cool. So you can totally rotate them up together. All right, so we got our claws. Yeah, I'll start off rotating them together. So we'll go to our claws rotational parameters. set some keyframes in their rotation. Great, and then we'll make sure that we end on that keyframe as well. So I just kind of set the markers on both the start and the end position. And then now we're just going to kind of align these with the subtle movements that we see from the head here. Okay, so now the claws should be able to move together. There we go. Got some claw movement. And then let's take each claw individually now and do some more animation on it. So I'll go to the specific beats. Maybe we'll turn this claw upside down here. Have that hold for a couple of frames. Oh, that's the right claw. Whoops. Let's grab the left claw rotation parameter. Ah. Oh, wait. That's the character's right claw. My bad. Let me go to my right claw parameters. Grab our keyframe here for our right claw. We have another one here. Let's copy that key over. So that just adds a little bit of motion to the claw. So it's going to go from a down state to an up state. It holds there for a couple of frames. Great. Let's try that for the other claw as well. Left claw. Where are you? Claw. Wait. Yeah, left claw. Okay. Cool. We got some motion on our character. It's a little crab walking creature. The looping is a little abrupt though, unfortunately. So I need to find maybe a better way to cycle this out. Interesting, interesting. Okay, let's go to our root controller. And I want to create a subtle transition to the Y height so that there, maybe not that much, whoops, but just create some little bit of bounce as the character's walking. So we'll set our root of we'll set the Y value at frame 1, and then here we'll just kind of do a slight divot down. And then we can just kind of copy those keys over a couple of times. I'm going to take all of those values here, go to our F-curve modifier, and exaggerate the up and down state a little bit. All right, question from Jitesh says, I was talking about the right legs though, but it's all right. You saw the comment. I'm a little late. By the time you copied a lot of frames on the right and left leg loop. Yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, it's going back to the dope sheet here. Let's see, where is a solid loop happening? Because I don't know if I'm seeing the loop that I initially imagined. Okay. Great. So, now what? Well, what we could do now is test this out if it's going to work for augmented reality or not. So, I don't know if this is the best approach. Let me see what happens at the end here. If I take all of the start frames, copy that over to here, would we get a nice seamless loop, hopefully, in theory? Take all of the root geometry and just kind of space it out a bit. Don't mind me, just trying to find a nice, I don't know, a nice home for the leg movement. Kind of have him walking more like a like a horse, a sideways horse. All right, well, there you have it. That's how you rig and animate a character from scratch, and doing weight paints and whatnot inside of Cinema 4D. And yeah, now that we have like a rig and he's alive, you can, animate your characters and take your textures and models and breathe some life into them. This character could be like a villain or something. It looks kind of evil because it's like a lava monster, but I like it. And let's just save this real quick. I want to see what happens if I try to export this out as an FBX file. What data is lost, what data is kept. Yeah, we'll bake all the materials. We'll bake all frames. That would be great. And that looks all fun too. Is there an earlier version? A newer version? Nope, 2019 is it. Hit OK. I'm going to export this as rigging test v1 version 1. Let's save it. And then now what I do is I try this out in augmented reality. So let me find a different device. Actually, I'm going to end the live stream on my phone here so I can just test it on my screen. So we're just going to end that. We're on YouTube right now, but we're going to end the stream here on Instagram. Okay, so I want to test this scene that we just made inside of augmented reality real quick. So I export it as an FBX file, and then I like to test my work a lot of times either in Adobe in Adobe Aero. So we can go to Aero here and find a home for this data to live in. So I'm just gonna drag it in. What am I doing? Oh yeah, let's make another window here. And this one will be to our asset that we just copied here. Great, I'm gonna right click on it, copy it, and then paste this into our cloud under rigging tests. And just right click into here and just paste. Cool. So we're just going to paste that test in here. And then I'm just going to jump in on Adobe Aero on my device here just to see if it works in augmented reality. We'll do another test on screen as well, but I just want to make sure that this character works in AR on my device here first. So let me just kind of scan my area, set a ground plane, add a new asset, go to Creative Cloud, go to Recent under Aero. Oh, it's still loading, so let me let it keep loading. Is it up there yet? Nope, it's still sending that data to the cloud under rigging tests. It's not that big of a file, is it? Okay. Oh, the textures are pretty big. I forgot about that. We set everything to 2K. Sometimes what I do for augmented reality... Oh, looks like it passed. It looks like it's on there. So let's see if it works here. If I reset my importer. Rigging tests. And then here's rigging test version 1. Let's hit open. Let's put the crab here. See if it's loading. It's taking some time to load on the frame. I really wish I could share this on screen here, but give me a moment. You can enjoy this little crab walking on Cinema 4D. Hopefully get it working here on the device. Looks great. What's the file size of the F? Oh my god, it totally came out correct. Wow! Sorry. Whoa! Darn it, I want to show you, but I don't have a good way of showing my phone screen through here. Because even if I flip the phone screen, the AR asset is on my keyboard here. So let me just test if the animation works. So I'm going to go to Behaviors, Triggers, Start, Action. We'll have it play animation. Is it going to play? We'll play it infinitely if it works, please. Okay, so the good news is the model works, but the bad news is my rig is not working. So the model looks perfectly fine, but it's not playing back, which is interesting. Let me try interpreting the animation data differently. Sometimes you just have to switch it up. Oh, I don't see another option. It is considered play animation. Okay, so play animation's not working right now. Alright, let me try another experiment. I have a couple versions of Aero on my phone, so I'm going to try a newer version. Maybe they have some support for it on here. Okay, we're going to make a new scene. I'm going to scan my environment. Great, we've scanned the ground. I set a ground plane. Add a new scene here. Go to our Creative Cloud, Aero, Rigging Tests, and add our crab test rigging version 1. Tap to place. Alright, it's loading up into the new version of Aero. If this is going to continue to break, I have another format we can try, but I like to use FBX when possible. Oh, you're asking about the file size. Yeah, let's take a look. The file size says 0 kilobytes. It's not right. Properties. It is, oh wow, it's humongous. It's 9 megabytes. So not going to work in Spark AR yet. We would have to do a lot more optimizations. Let me go to Behaviors, Triggers, Start Behavior, Action, Play Animation. Alright, so it has failed, unfortunately, in both of these here. Both of my tests. So it's not playing back the animation in augmented reality. So before I freak out, I want to try it in a different format just to see if it's a formatting error. So we're going to go to File, Export. We'll choose a GLTF. And this one we want to save out, we want to bake out our animations as PLAs. Yeah, stands for point level attributes, I think. We'll leave the scale alone. I'll hit OK. Cool. Rigging, great. And then let's bring this into Aero under rigging tests. And let's just see if this one works. So hit save. Cool. So it's saved. And then hopefully, because I want to make sure that we get this animation data out of here so that the character can come to life. You can compress the file size of textures online with some PNGs. You could do that. Or in Substance Painter, since everything's procedural, you can just change your export settings to a lower resolution. So take a look. You can go in your texture settings here. Right now we're showing it at 2K, but if you want to drop the res a lot, you can set it to 1K maps. Look at that. So now this is now a 1K asset. So all the textures are now half the resolution. If you're really suffering, you could even go as low as 128. Let me show you. Here's 512. Super low res textures, but it still gets a lot of the core concept out of the way. So if we're really hurting, I would do it right here. The other thing is we can merge a lot of our textures together with an Spark AR exporter. So we can actually go to File, Export Textures, and instead of using the preset here, PBR metal roughness, blah, 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 they actually made one for Spark AR Studio. So I can choose that one and set these to JPEGs. These are much smaller, and then it's only going to export 4 materials, so that's going to be plenty, you know, plenty of space. And then we just got to choose the setting where we want these to live in. We'll keep them in the material folder, but we'll make a new folder in here called low res, and then we'll save it in there, and then hit export. So now we got these 4 much lower resolution textures. And if the GLTF format doesn't work right now, then I'll swap out the textures for the tinier maps, since they'll be a lot lighter weight on the machine. Let me just go ahead and run Adobe Aero again on my phone. Let's jump into our scene. Let's rescan our environment here. Great, we've got it. Let's add a new asset to our scene. Go to Creative Cloud, go to Aero, go to Rigging Tests. There it is, the newest version. Let's apply it, hit open. It's much faster to load right now. Oh, actually, no, it's not. Actually, it is. I don't know why. This one doesn't even have a different texture set. Oh, wow. Okay, it looks super weird on screen. The textures look very different, but let me set it to behaviors. Let's go to Start Behaviors, Actions, Play Animation. Oh, question from Jitesh says, you can compress, yeah. You can definitely compress it, but I like to give it the file so it doesn't compress it manually. Wow, it works. It's animating as a GLTF. The textures look super compressed though. So that is good to know, but oh, it looks like you can add multiple clips. That's cool. Transition. What's treadmill? Return to start position. I don't know what treadmill is. Try it. Animation will stay in the same location. Root motion will be overridden. Oh, that's cool. Let's try treadmill. And then let's hit play. Eey. It does not look good. It looks like it broke it. Infinite. Alright, let me just double check this. Oh yeah, my rig does not hold up very nicely in AR. All the rig looks broken, to be honest. So I'm glad we tested that. But at least from a visual effects perspective, this would work fine. I could bring this into Redshift and have it in like a cool scene. And I think that we could do stuff like that. But there you go. That's it. That's all we have for today. That is animation, rigging and animation in YouTube. In Cinema 4D on YouTube here. So hopefully you learned a bunch of stuff about how to bring your character to life and take it to that next level. Yeah, I'm also just going to open up Spark AR really quickly and see if it plays nicely in there. So let's go here and go to Spark AR version 98. There's so many versions. Oh, my green screen or blue screen. Whoops. And we'll make a brand new project here in Spark AR. I just want to see if it works nicely in here. Sometimes it works fine. Let me discard this one. Cool. And then let's just import from computer. I'm going to go to my Volume D, Twitch Tutorials, Crab Monster, and then find our rigging test FBX file. Hit open on it. See what we get. It's taking some time to calculate it. There it is. I'm going to drag this into our objects here. All right, that's looking pretty good so far. Oh yeah, that looks great in AR right now. And then let me see, how do we play this back? Great. We got animation playback controller. We set the animation clip to start, I hope. Let me go to view. Patch editor. We add an animation playback control and then link that to our character here. I want to see if I can get this thing to move here. I don't know why I'm totally forgetting how to play back animations. There we go. Let's see if that does it. How do I get this to play? Totally drawing a blank how to play basic FBXs here inside of Spark AR. I could use a reminder. Oh, weird, there's two rigs in here. Alright, I'm drawing a lot of blanks. I don't know what to do here. Let me look at the documentation for Spark AR on YouTube, or on a new tab. What I'm looking for is FBX playback in Spark AR. Add asset, add animation playback controller. Great, we did that. We set the animation thing. Screen tap, turn on. Interesting. Okay, let me start from a template. So we go new from template. Let's choose world object. Let me delete that, discard that. And then we should resave out our model, but with the lower res textures, the ones that are set to half that resolution. So let me turn off our quick frame, go back to our standard here. And then what we'll do is I'll just make a new material. No, I'll just replace this material. So we'll go into our main material editor. And we'll go to our color. And we're just going to replace all of these with the lower res counterparts. So we'll go to low res. This is the low res base color. Great. And then we'll go to our reflection. Replace this with the low res crab monster material low res. This will be our roughness occlusion map or whatever. Whoa, it adds like, whoa. It's weird, some extra colors in there. I'll have to deal with that later. The normal map will also load in the low res normals. Great, and then we'll go to our luminance and give it the low res luminance as well. Okay, so now we've replaced it with all the low res textures. Yeah. And we have some animation in here. So let's see what happens. If I go to File, Export as an FBX file, this time we're going to turn on bake all frames. Yeah, that looks good. Okay, let's see what happens. I'll call this low res or lower res asset. Save it. Cool, and then let's jump into Spark AR. We got it here, and let's add our asset under import from computer. Grab our lower res asset, open it. Then we drag our lower res asset right to there. Cool, so now it's in our scene. I'm gonna go to delete our other asset in there. So we're just gonna select it, hit delete key. Great, so now we got this, we got some object in our scene. I'm going to go to its movement parameters and turn off spinning. And then what I do want to turn on is this animation playback control. I don't know how to turn it on. Let me go back to the documentation. Oh, did we close that? Looks like extra colors on textures in Cinema 4D because of some point lights, which is probably from the robot dance project you did that day. Oh yeah, that's highly possible. I make lots of mistakes. All right, how do I get this to play? Oh, there we go. So it has no playback controller. So now it has a playback controller. And I set it to, there's no clip in here. Stuck. Here on the very last step, and we are stuck. Have you exported a clip from Cinema 4D? Well, I set the FBX to have that data in it, because actually I can tell that it's, yeah, I'm missing that last step, which is how do you play back your FBX animation in Spark AR. So I'm going to make another tab and see if we can get it to play it. I'm forgetting. So FBX in Spark AR. It's just this last step here. So we got an animation playback controller. We did that. Select the object in the scene panel, go to the inspector next to this thing, and we set that up. We did that as well. Adding the animation to the playback controller. To connect an animation to the animation playback controller, select the animation playback controller in the asset panel. In the inspector, click on the drop-down next to animation, select animation you want to control. If you select the animation playback controller in the asset panel, you'll see three options under properties in the inspector: play, loop, and repeat. Okay. So maybe we just unchecked one of those or haven't checked them. Nope, we have it. Play, loop, and I don't see a repeat. But this doesn't look like it has anything. There's no animation clip. You haven't exported a clip from Cinema 4D. Remove the rotation animation. Recheck the animation export again. Okay. What do you mean by clip? Maybe I'm missing. I am definitely missing a step. You said you haven't exported a clip from Cinema 4D. So how do you do that? I'm blanking. I mean, I can go to my animation tab here, and then I could go into the top here, go to functions. I can choose bake objects. And I'm going to bake position. I'm going to bake all parameters from 0 to 90. Or at least, yeah, 0 to 90 is fine. And then set OK. Okay, so we just baked it all. All right, let me grab all my settings here and go to function, bake object. I'm going to bake all parameters for those 90 frames. Export the files in SPX Bake and include animation in the export file. Okay, I'll try it again. I'm just going to bake all the curves out. Cool, so now every frame is baked, I think. It's taking a little while to play it back. Okay, cool. So this is now all baked out up to frame 90. So now let's go to File, Export, and choose the FBX file. And we have some options in here. And I thought I have it set. I have set bake all frames. I even have takes. Oh, maybe I'll choose timeline markers. Yeah, maybe that's what I didn't have that turned on before. That might fix it. Jitesh. So let's try that now. I'm going to hit OK. We'll call this rigging underscore spark AR. Okay, great. And now let's jump into Spark AR. Let's get rid of our. Actually, I'll just start from fresh. So we'll go to new from template. We'll go to a new world object. Oh, it opened up the same thing again. Weird. Okay, then I'll just delete it manually here. So I'm just going to grab my asset and delete it. Cool. We go to our plane tracker. We go to File, New from Template, New World Object. All right, let me just close it all the way. There we go. So let's go to a new World Object. Great. And then we're going to import our geometry. So we'll go to Add Asset, import from Computer. We're going to go to Rig Test Spark A. I think that one should have the data. Cool, it's rendering. This one has a lot smaller file size too with the textures, so this one should be a little bit better. All right, there it is. It's loaded up. And then I think we just drag it right onto that drag here. So I grab my rigged asset, drag it right there. Cool, so that brings it into our scene. Now I'm going to hide whatever object this is. So just go to, actually I'll keep the drop shadow though, I like that. But this thing we can just turn that off. Cool, and then we'll go to our spinning. Let's turn the spinning off. And then we'll grab our asset and create another playback controller. So I think we go up to the top of it somewhere in here and click on create animation controller, and then I don't know what I'm doing here. I just want this thing to come to life now. Huh. Any ideas? It's an FBX in here. We got it rigged. It's animated. I see all the bones in there, so that all came through. File size is still tremendous. We'll need to reduce it a lot. Yeah. Let's see. Is there a loop anim block? No. Delete me. Let's see if we delete this real quick. We have our character. Skeleton is set on. Do you have any other programs where you can check if FBX has animation? None that I can do quickly. Whoa, there's 2 models. Oh, wait a second. This might be related to the problem. I might be applying it to one that doesn't have the rig, but they were placed exactly on top of each other. I think this is the problem. So let me just grab the one that has the bones. Oh my god, I think that's the problem. This skeleton is part of a different model. I'm even more confused now. Double click it, simple. Animation playback control. Maybe I'll drag this into here manually. So this is the animation playback control, and I want it to be on this character. Double click the 3D object in the file. Double click the 3D object file in the folders. Oh, I see. Where do we save it to? Crab monster. The latest one is that one. I mean, my FBXs usually don't play back in this viewer anyway. Yeah, they don't usually play back in here. If we save it as a GLTF, it might play back in here. So maybe I'll skip the FBX altogether. Let me discard this. We'll save it as a GLTF. So we'll go to Export GLTF. That's got the scale, PSR, position, scale, rotation. It's going to bake animations, textures, cameras. All that looks really good. I'm going to hit OK. And I'm going to label this one, please work. And save it. Cool. And there is a tool I use online to test GLTFs. It's called Babylon. Babylon.js. So this website, sandbox.babylon.js, you can just drag any GLTF file from your desktop into here, and it will immediately start playing. So let me find my GLTF. There it is. Please work. Drag it in here. Okay. So it doesn't like my rigging. And it looks like there's multiple models in here, so we have lots of problems. Ugh. That's one thing I've found is when I try to rig myself, it doesn't work very well in AR consistently. So, oof, that kind of kills my vibe. I might need to take a break. That's enough for now. Okay, Don, listen, let's rotate the skeleton first in Spark AR and see if it's binded. You're totally right. No, I guess the issue I'm having is it's how I've prepared this model. I think like the animation that we done, all the stuff is going to work really well for VFX, but I don't know if it likes it for AR. Oh yeah, I could delete some models. We could do that. But which ones? I don't understand why it made 3. Why there's even 3 in here. I don't see them unless it's this stuff. Which one is the one that matters? Let's just take a guess. Let's just delete some stuff and see what happens. Oh. Oh, wow, look at that. The model is still working without bones? Oh, no, it has bones. What would happen if I delete the character? Okay, then it does nothing. What if I delete retopo mesh? Then there's no geometry. Got it. So this is the minimum requirements. Wait, does this have bones though? Or did I delete the bone system? I guess I don't see bones earlier, so maybe he doesn't have bones. Or maybe the bones are at least hidden. I'm going to go to my display and see if I can display our full. Oh, okay, so it does have bones. Good. Yeah, I don't know why it's not working. It should work now, I guess. Okay, cool. Let's give it a shot. Whew. Save our work. And we'll go to export. I'll try it as an FBX again. I'm going to leave all these settings alone. Timeline markers. Yeah. Yeah, it looks good. Okay, let's hit OK. Let's say, let's just call this R. Save it. And then let's jump into Spark AR and make a new world object template. Great. Let's mostly full screen this and add our asset going into our import from computers. There's the R1. Hit OK, open. Cool. It imported a lot faster that time. Then we're going to drag this into here. Great. And then what do we do now? We have our geometry. It says there's no controller selected. So do I just do create animation playback controller? That's so weird. I feel like in the past it would just work immediately once I brought it in and did that one button. So I don't know why this one's not working. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here, folks. We had it all rigged and everything. Ugh, so frustrating. Come to life, please. You're so close. You're so close to being alive. Go to animation playback control, select your animation. Oh, okay, let's try that. You say go to animation playback control. There it is. Oh. It's just weird. There's not an option in here. It just says none. And it even says what object is using it. It's got play turned on. It's got loop turned on. I mean, this is normally what I do to bring in my FBXs. It says, Don, don't give up. I agree. We shouldn't give up. I'm just really hungry. I didn't eat much this morning. Okay, we shouldn't give up. You're right. Okay, let's see. What to do? Well, here's a good test. I should just try to import a different asset real quick and see if I have the same problem. So I'm going to import from computer. We'll find a different animated asset that I have made in the past that does work. So I'll go to my rigging tests. I know these FBX files should work fine. So let's hit open on this. Great. I'm going to put the hip hop dancing character into here. Awesome. So I got my character in there. And then I would go to my controller and I would turn that on and then hit play. Weird, that's not playing back either. That one I know works for sure. Let me see, I'm going to go to animation playback controllers. I don't know what's going on. I wonder if Spark AR changed the setting recently. Yeah, because like this is something wrong with that. Like nothing's working on it. And this one actually had an animation clip. The other one doesn't have a clip. It just said none. Okay, new idea. Let me discard this. We'll go on to YouTube real quick. Can you share this crab file for others to test it? Maybe. Not sure yet if I can share this one. Mostly because I might want to sell it. FBX Spark AR. Let's see how to export animation clip FBX Cinema 4D. Exporting character animation. Okay. This is old school. Let's see. Nope. Old. Too old. No data. It's so weird. I've done this so many times. I guess the difference here is it's very rare that I make my own rig. I'm usually using a different rigging system. So I feel like that might be the problem. It's like I'm using a custom rigging tool. Instead of just using regular geometry, like regular joint chains, I'm using like a Cinema 4D tool to do the rigging, and I don't think it's liking this tool at all. Cinema 4D loves it. It's happy to animate it, right? But then this tool is not cool. Yeah, I might need to watch some tutorials. It's just usually this works. Oh, this looks interesting. None of these bones are connected to each other. Let me see. Maybe there's a way to convert C4D character rig to animation. Let me just see what they do for that. Rigging system is not the problem. Oh, it's not the problem? Okay. Good to know. It's been a problem for me, though. Every time I've tried to make my own custom rigs and bring it into AR, I've had this problem. Okay. Basic. We have just this character in here and he's got animation. So what's the problem? Position track to spline. Spline to position. Bake objects. Bake expressions, copy, blah, blah, blah. Let's just do position, rotation, and yeah, just do position and rotation. See if that does anything. Whoa. What did that do? That just created a copy in there somewhere? Let me undo that. Ajesh says, if you check your dope sheet, there will be a clip name which includes your animation. That's the clip you should see in Spark AR. Oh, dope. Okay, let's go to my dope sheet. And then where do you see it? How do you find the clip name? What if I click on the create? No. Sorry, the action editor. Oh, I don't know what that is. I don't use it. I don't know what the action editor is. You mean like the motion system? Huh. Damn, I'm using some Blender terms maybe. It's okay. I wish I could solve this too. I don't know. This is so weird. Like almost everything's the same minus the fact that I'm making my own rig from scratch. It's the place where you see your keyframes properly under a hierarchy. Yeah, that's what's weird. I don't see that here at all. Like, these are all my keyframes, yet I don't see any of their data, which is probably the same. Oh, there we go. There's some data. I don't know why I can see it now. Let me see if I can grab everything in here, minus the PLA layer. So this should be all the animation. It's not a lot. Why can't we extract this? Edit. I don't know what to do. Dang it. How do you do? I don't know what to do here. I'm stuck. So I'm going to try it as a GLTF again. I don't know. That might have some better impact. You can take a break, probably. Yeah, I can take a break, but you said I can't give up. So I'm conflicted. Yeah, I'm losing my motivation a little bit right now just because I'm feeling a little exhausted. And I'm not seeing success currently. Oh my god, that just crashed. I think that crashed one of the programs. Alright, I'm going to undo a bunch of steps. All that baking might have erased some data that I needed. All right, we're stopping. I can't do this right now. No worries. Yeah, I've run this issue before. There's definitely a solution somewhere, but I'll need to do some more research of my own to find it. But thank you so much for your feedback. It's been super helpful, but I'm hungry and I'm sleepy. So I need to take care of those things. So for now, I'm going to end the stream. Thank you so much, really, and hopefully you learn a bunch of cool stuff. We'll find a solution somewhere.